Am I the butthole for leaving significant facial scarring uncovered on a plane and being confrontational when a father asked me to cover it because it was scaring his son? I sustained very bad injuries to my face this month. I'm in the stage of healing when the scar tissue has formed, but it's still very tender new skin. I'm going to have very obvious facial scarring for the rest of my life. The injury starts about an inch above my hairline, goes down over my brow so that on part, hair will not grow. It continues down my cheek where it is deepest. I'll always probably have an indentation in the fullest part of my cheek. Then it continues to my jawline. In some ways it's okay. I'm happy it's just cosmetic damage. My friends are super reassuring, telling me how badass and sick it's going to look. They say I'm still as hot as ever, now a little more sexy and mysterious lol. But in some ways it really sucks. I know that I'm always going to be seen first as the girl with the scar, and it feels especially bad when people look at me differently. This week, I had to fly home for a family thing. It was a plan I'd made long before my injury. I wasn't really looking forward to the pity or people making a big deal of it. I'd rather it not be acknowledged. I'd also met with my dermatologist, who said that I was at the stage of scar tissue formation that I no longer should be dressing the wounds. The skin was healing and instead I needed to be applying topical cream and Vaseline to keep the site clean and moist. It also looks a bit ugly. The building scar tissue is very red and tender, and with the Vaseline over it, looks slick and shiny. So I get on this flight, I have the window seat and I put on my headphones and drift off to sleep when the plane is still boarding. I wake up to this kid, maybe 4 years old, sat next to me, throwing a tantrum. I didn't catch the first part of it and I honestly couldn't understand what he was yelling about. His father said to me, "Can you cover that injury?" I said that my dermatologist recommends I don't, so no, I don't think I will. He started snapping at me saying there is no need to be so rude. That injury is graphic and it's scaring my little one. I said this is my face. The only damn face I've got. It sucks being told I'm so ugly I can't show my goddamn face in public. He started to backtrack saying just until it's healed, and I said it'll always be with me. Maybe teach some effing compassion and respect instead of telling a girl half your damn age what you think about her face. That's rude. He actually got up after that and I think went to a stewardess about a seat change because a young couple came to sit next to me on a few minutes instead. I've got to admit I felt so low that I put on my sunglasses and had a quiet cry for a few minutes. Am I the butthole for not covering my healing scar, and for being confrontational about it? Dear God, no, you're absolutely NTA. People that are that heartless shouldn't be allowed in public. Jesus effing Christ. I'm so sorry that happened to you. It does sound like it looks pretty badass, for the record. Rock what you got, girl, rock on gesture. Looks badass and sticks up for herself like a badass. You absolutely put that complete turd in his place. You're 100%, not the butthole op, you rock. Seconded. You sound very cool and badass. It's hard to stand up for yourself like that and you effing nailed it. I'd crumble in that situation. Badass. Not the butthole. Edit for clarification, situation being the confrontation. You know how I got this wound? Some butthole bothered me while I was minding my own business. Father grabs little one and leaves. Edit, was. You forgot one extra, but necessary line, you should see the other guy. This so much. Op, I'm so impressed by the way you stood up for yourself. Hell yeah, it's badass. From her description, that is literally the type of scar that I immediately chose when I am making a badass in a game. It is effing amazing. Not trying to downplay the injury or the affect it may have on her future though, it's just so effing cool. To stick up for yourself like a badass after only 1 month is the most incredible part. NTA. For real, he'll think about that for the rest of his life. I hope it keeps him up at night. Hell yeah. Op sounds like someone who would strut away from exploding buildings in slow-mo. NTA. That father is teaching his son a horrible message, that looks are everything. I'm so sorry you had to go through this, Op. Worse than that, he's teaching the kid that it's okay to force people to curtail their freedoms to placate the fragility of others. NTA, edit, thank you so much for the silver. I'm speechless. Thank you. Even worse than all that, he's teaching his son that it's acceptable to invade the privacy of, and insult total strangers for his own petty reasons. How dare he? NTA, and I am sorry original post had to deal with that. All of the above comments are right on. You're strong and brave for defending your space so articulately, Op. One of the hardest things about living with any kind of disability, and an injury isn't exactly a disability, but I'm not quite sure where else to classify it, pre-coffee, is that it forces you to become an activist, whether or not that's in your nature. It's not in mine, but 15 years after my accident, I've gotten better at it. NTA. Definitely a hero. BTW. Off the top of my head, Tina Fey has an enormous facial scar and has never been defined as that girl W the scar in her career. She did write in her memoir that she could classify people into two groups, those who looked her in the eye, and those who looked her in the scar, again, pre-coffee, so paraphrasing. My point is that it will always be part of you, but it is not going to be all of you. And I think your friends are right. You're going to rock it. I'm sorry that you have to live with it, but you have more than enough character to face, pun not intended, the people who can't handle what you can. Till Tina Fey has a facial scar. She doesn't like to talk about it but did reveal the cause in her book. It was due to a random act of violence. A stranger slashed her face with a knife when she was a child. Add this to the list of reasons I love Tina Fey. Gets horribly injured as a child, doesn't let it stop her from becoming a world-famous actress, writer, producer, etc. Channel your inner Tina Fey, Op. You've clearly got the balls for it. Don't blame the kid, he didn't understand. Blame the dad for coddling his child to the point where he has a tantrum at the sight of a scar. On behalf of Reddit, I'm proud of you for telling that guy to shove it. Edit, not the butthole double edit. I'm leaving my original comment as is in an effort to not be deceptive, but a couple of commenters have changed my perspective a little bit. Instead of blaming the father for having previously coddled his child, I should have recognized that maybe this is the first opportunity he had to teach his son that some people have scars and that's just how it is. I believe he still failed by missing this teaching opportunity, but the difference matters. I'm here to learn as well as judge and I appreciate the input. Thanks guys. I mean 4-year-olds have a tantrum at anything but your job as a parent is to be like I'm sorry you're sad that cherries are red but that's just life bro. That whole account is one of the most badass things I have ever read. She's like, moving right along folks. I have tons of respect for her because of it. Ditto. I had no idea. But did you know her name was Elizabeth? Not Tina. That comes from her last name which ends in Tina. Her name is Elizabeth Fey Tina? I always knew her face was slightly asymmetric but only got to know about the scar when I watched her Letterman interview. Right, I never noticed. I had to Google it. Had no clue. Wow, I never realized she had a scar until now. How strange. Probably one of the most heartwarming and funny memoirs I've read. For anyone interested, go check out Bossy Pants. Edit, words. I never even noticed she was scarred. Well, makeup artists can do wonders, and also, that's sort of my point, what seems like an overwhelmingly defining characteristic at one point in your life can recede behind one's wit, charm, intelligence, beauty, and everything else they are. Heart, I have an 8-inch scar on my leg. At one point I was so uncomfortable wearing shorts or short skirts. Now I could give a F, except about the pain. And as gross as the fashion industry is, I love that they're increasingly showing models with vitiligo, or lots of moles, or things that would have been called flaws 20 years ago. I am sure there are tumblers for people showing the beauty of their scars. I was more aware of them immediately after the accident that crippled and scarred me. It's been a while and I can't think of any names now, but original post is young, so I bet she can internet better than I can anyway. Even worse than that, he's not teaching empathy at all. If I see a person that has a disability, disfigurement or anything that makes them stand out, I empathize with their situation. If I was in this father's spot, I would immediately be thinking about how much potential trauma this person has gone through to get such a scar. And now has a daily reminder of it. I'd be thankful for my own health and for the health of my child. This would be a teaching moment. People are different. Our bodies are fragile. This is a boo-boo from an event that is much, much worse than skinning your knee at the playground. I might move on the plane because I'd be so embarrassed if my kid didn't shut up about it. Yeah, that reaction is horrible and psychopathic. Lots of people cringe unwillingly when they see a person with some sort of disfigurement. But that is out of fear and thinking about what a horrible thing happened to them. Asking somebody to cover up their scars. Instead of explaining to the son that sometimes horrible things can happen to people and it is a miracle they survived it sometimes. That dude is the butthole. You did nothing wrong. Okay kid, you're afraid. Time for a life lesson. To turn it around on you and insist you are responsible for ensuring the comfort of his kid makes me sick. And I would have been far blunter with that father. Does the same apply if you were an amputee? Had extreme psoriasis or another skin disorder? Where does it end? Shall we place everyone who looks a little different down in the baggage hold to ensure we don't upset anyone? If it truly bothered him to that extent, he could have quietly asked the stewardess for help and not upset you. People can be rude, selfish and flat-out buttholes, and I'm sorry you got stuck beside one. Good luck in the healing process. That guy had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to teach his child that sometimes people get scars and that there's nothing scary about them because it's just healing skin, in Op's case, and later on it's just healed skin, so just like his but after an injury. Instead he reinforced them being scary by telling original post to cover them up. Exactly. When I was about 7 I was at the grocery store with my mom and we were waiting in line at the pharmacy. A man standing behind us had burn scars all over his face. I'd never seen that before, I couldn't look away, and I was getting scared. I had a lot of nightmares about monsters and stuff at the time. My mother apologized to him, took me to the side, got down to my level and said some people get very, very hurt, and it changes the way they look and there's absolutely nothing they can do about it. It's rude to stare, they don't need to be reminded that they look different. Imagine how you would feel if you had a nose that was 10 times bigger than it is now. Would it feel good to walk around and everyone stares at your big nose? No, it wouldn't. Don't stare, and be respectful. That has stuck with me to this very day. NTA at Op, I'm sorry you're dealing with this. I hope you're able to find some compassion from strangers in the future. You have a good mama. She wasn't the best, but she had her moments. She got that one right. I think we all have parents that goes both ways. It's the good lessons like this that hopefully stick with us. That's a real good one. I have a 2-year-old and I'm saving that for when or if I have to use it. Thanks to your mom. My 2-year-old daughter at a grocery checkout loudly exclaimed, "Wow, that lady's hair is long." It was a man, and he became bright red. I felt awful, and said sorry, she's only 2. From then on with her, and the other kids I've cared for, it's a conversation you can have pretty often. Not everybody looks the same, and we should never point to things, or say anything out loud, about anyone. You can whisper to me if you have a question, but it's not nice to talk about other people. It's easier to try and explain all kinds of people before a child sees it, because kids are curious and inquisitive. This dad though, what an idiot. To even have the nerve to open his mouth, and say crap like that is unbelievable. Dad should have stepped in before original post was even aware, and explained to his son. Can't blame a 4-yo, but sure can blame parents after, for not teaching manners, and empathy, and just life in general. Also definitely NTA. Not at all. I've been the person being stared at. I walk with a pretty bad limp, cerebral palsy, and once while walking down the street a kid yelled out, "Why does that lady walk like that?" from behind me. I just ignored it because I'm used to it happening, but a few minutes later a woman tapped me on the shoulder and said, "I just wanted to thank you. I had the opportunity today to teach my son that some people are different and that's okay, so thank you for being you." I didn't know what to say in the moment, but I wish I had told her how much that meant to me. I'm happy to be a teaching moment if it means more people are teaching their kids not to stare. Kids are learning. And they will stare, in his case throw a fit, weird but whatever, or maybe ask questions loudly that embarrass the crap out of you. Teach. Tell them she got hurt, like when you fall off your bike, or scrape your knee, and she's getting better. Once they get an explanation they can understand, it takes the fear of the unknown away. NTA. That guy is a dick. The kid threw a fit because the father clearly doesn't teach him anything. Kid doesn't know how to act, so he acts the only way he knows how, and what probably gets his parents' attention better, as I'm sure he's a spoiled brat. The fit is not that weird, the kid doesn't understand. I had a skin tag frozen under my arm, my 4-year-old asked to see it. Once she saw it all swollen and gross, she freaked out. Wouldn't talk to or look at me for 2 hours, finally got her to sit down and listen to an explanation of what happened and how it would heal, and it changed her tone to sympathetic and compassionate. The father made it a negative teaching moment instead of positive. I was once at Publix, behind a lady checking out. This cashier had super bad psoriasis all on her arms. The lady buying her food was super rude, talking about disinfecting things and wanting a new cashier. Luckily, I worked in a dermatology lab for a few years, so I immediately defended the cashier. I am a man and I kind of wanted to deck the lady for making a scene about a benign, non-infectious but not greatly aesthetic disease that the cashier suffers through both physical pain and the social stigma probably every single day of her life. I worked at a Walmart for a bit as one of my first jobs. And one of the cashiers had an interesting skin condition. I do not know what it was, but it made her look like she had warts and dry skin all over. It was non-threatening and not contagious. Poor girl had to be a cashier though, and at least 50% of the people would say very loudly they need a new cashier. That they don't want her nasty hands touching the food they have to buy. She cried almost every day in the break room. I felt so effing awful that I had to witness these things and not be able to say anything to the buttholes. I desperately needed income at that time, so I couldn't afford to lose that job. But by God, I was infuriated every time I heard some side comment about her skin or how she's gross/ugly. Like the girl literally cannot change her skin. Just like original post cannot change hers. People don't realize how nasty they are. Cause the person with the skin issues isn't gross. They, the other people, are the ugly/gross humans for acting like that. NTA, you did well. That is awful, and also everyone should be washing their food before they eat it anyway, no matter what the cashier's skin looks like. Someone with the hands of a hand model could still have nasty germs on them. People are so rude, and so bad at coming up with excuses for their rudeness. I hate when I'm a customer somewhere and I hear another customer being rude or pitching a fit. I always try and step in if I can and call them out on it, because I know what it's like being in retail and not being able to say anything back. There's a guy who works at my local game shop who has the most awful case of psoriasis I've ever seen. It looks so painful. Every time I see him I feel bad for him and hope he's in treatment, but I talk to him like any other store employee and never mention it. Came here to say this. Throughout that kid's life, he is going to see all kinds of people with scars, skin conditions, deformities, amputations, etc., and it is not those people's job to cover up their bodies for not being aesthetically pleasing enough. It is 100% a parent's job to teach their child that these people are not scary and how to be polite towards them. All this guy is doing is setting his kid up to be the butthole who is rude to those people because he thinks he shouldn't have to see them. What a disgrace. Thank you for watching. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. We welcome your comments below. Another of our videos will begin shortly.